Right, finished restarting. Let's proceed to the next part, which is the object groups. So last time we said there's going to be a memory leak with our approach in the bullets. Now we're going to remove that using groups. Spacer, you've got groups wherein you can put your different objects there, and you can apply things to that entire group without having to iterate through everything. You're still going to iterate, but there's already built-in things that deal with iteration. For example, in a bit we're going to discuss how collisions can happen between groups. Anyway, so again, we're going to replace our bullets array with a bullet pool, and this bullet pool is a group. So first, create an empty group. We plan to put only sprites there. Then enable physics to everything inside that group. Then create a sprite, multiple of sprites, 100 sprites that is based on the bullet image. And by default, when you create them, they're dead. So they're killed. They're non-existing. We need to revive them later. Then set everything using set all. Set their anchor to 0.5, y 0.5, and automatically kill them when they reach out of bounds. So when they're dead, they stop doing their physics things, and they're just not visible anymore. So replace the bullets. Again, we replace the bullets. Where are our bullets? There you go. We replace the bullets with this one. And I shot that is 0, that's the end. Then we replace the fire. So instead of doing the fire wherein we create everything, first we have to add something, which is we check if the bullet pool has no dead bullets, because if there are no dead bullets, there's no bullet to revive, because instead of creating bullets from the fly here, we're going to revive them, and if all of them are somewhere in the screen, there's nothing else to revive, so we're not going to continue with firing a bullet. Then replace everything with that. And other people at this house are waking up. Anyway, so yeah, we find the first dead bullet and we revive it at that location and give it the velocity. And if we try that again, and read property of length undefined, I think we missed something, which is the collision. It's not yet ready. We forgot to put the collision detection because it's no longer an array, it's now excuse me, now a bullet pool. So this is similar to the previous one where we compared just the sprite and another sprite. Now we compare a pool, a group, to the sprite, another object, and it should be the same. So it's same. No longer, the error is no longer there. Focus just on the console, so no error. So yeah, firing, it works, and so on. But again, there's it's working, but there's a minor quirk. I'll just leave that to you to figure out what that is. But it's only present in sprite groups, and not it's not present. It's only present in group to sprites. So group sprite, there is a slight quirk there, but that quirk is not present in group to groups, which we will use later, and sprite to group. So there's no sense in explaining that. Right, next part. Enemy sprite group. So we only have one enemy. We want to create a game where we have many enemies. So let's replace the enemy with a pool of enemies that shows up every second. So it's similar. Check out of bounds, check the anchor. The animations will be set by iterating through the enemy pool. Add that group. And there you go. And to spawn the enemies, now before we spawn, let's replace the enemy with enemy pool in the overlap. So now we're no longer comparing a group with a single enemy. We're now comparing it with the pool and the pool. So you might notice again, all of the enemies are dead. Enemies are dead at the start. Bullets are also dead at the start. So when you call the overlap function, this overlap function will only compare the living sprites. Okay. The next part is we randomize the enemy spawn. Right. So this is similar to the approach we did in the bullets. So per update, we check if the time for the spawning of the next enemy is now, and if there are available enemies in the enemy pool. Otherwise, there's going to be an error if we try to reset that. Then we set the delay. 1 second after the spawn, we're going to spawn another. Then we just do the same, reset it, but instead of resetting at a certain location, we now call the built-in randomization function, this the RND, which has integer.range. So between 20 and 780 and at the top of the screen. So between 20 and 780, that's where the plane's spawning. And the velocity we randomize from 30 to 60. Then we just play it. Then let's do that. Put it after the overlap. And let's try it. So they are now coming at me in random waves. Anyway, so yeah, there's no collision yet with the player, but there is collision with the bullets. Cool. So we can now blow up our enemies. Again, that's kind of boring. So let's increase the challenge. Add another overlap checking. Now, before we had the bullets and the enemies, now we have the player and the enemy. And we need to create another function, player hit, to handle that. And player hit is similar to enemy hit, but instead of just that, we also kill the player. Yeah. Overlap. and at the line 140, this means that we didn't screw up. Line 140. Line 140 again, bullet kill, enemy kill, player kill. And if you try that, we die, but we can still fire. So we need to add another condition here at fire, which just says that you can't fire if we're dead. So instead of that, we also add this check if player is alive. So alive is a built-in member of your sprite. If it's alive, it's true. If it's not alive, it's false. Checking if it's alive. And refresh. Press Z, it's not firing anymore. Another issue is our hitbox is quite big, as you can see. Let's do that again. Our hitbox is quite big because there's a large transparency when it comes to our player sprite. Up. Yeah, there's a large transparency. We can reduce the hitbox to just around this one if we want to make our game not too challenging. So let's just set the pixel hitbox and center it a bit higher than the center. That's a motorcycle. Collide world true. Collide world bounce true. And now we can now have a near miss and not blow up. Unless we really go directly there. There it is. Okay, next part. I would just ignore this debugs thing. Just don't forget to remove it afterwards, otherwise you're going to have a problem with this line numbers. Now let's convert our explosions to a sprite group, because again, here is a slight memory leak. We create a new explosion every explosion. We don't pool that one. That, put it here at the shot delay. And at line 161, I think we had an extra line somewhere up there. We had one. So that's 11. Yay, macros. So we got our explosion pool. Then we remove all of the other explosions. All these things, and we replace it with simply with this one. Okay, that should work. And the good part is we retain the velocity. Previously, when we hit something, it stops. But now, when we hit something, it retains the velocity. Anyway, that's that for this chapter. This sprite ordering thing just says the ordering of the sprites when you create them defines their order, what we call the Z index of the sprite. So at the bottom is the C, followed by the player, followed by the enemy, followed by that, and at the top of everything is our instructions. We realize that again our plane is near the bottom. Same thing with our bullets. Our bullets are faster than our plane, so we can't really see them. But they are pretty close to the top. Really, that's it for this chapter. Next chapter, we're going to take a short, not really short, around 10-minute intermission to refactor our code.